Hi everyone, my name is Izzy and I'm going to be reading you my personal narrative titled What Love Really Is. What is love? When I was younger, I thought love was like the love in every Disney movie. I thought love was between a prince and a princess, and in the end everyone would live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that isn't what love is in the real world, and I've learned that. Love cannot be defined, it cannot be described, and sometimes you cannot hold on to the beautiful rarity of it. This particular boy I thought was my true love since 7th grade. I thought we were destined for each other. We would sit with each other every day at lunch, walk each other to every class, kiss each other goodbye every time we would leave each other's sides. We would write each other handwritten notes and slip them into each other's notebooks, and laugh at the silliest of things. We would have movie nights with popcorn, and we even one night had chocolate chip cookies you could make in 1 minute in the microwave. Every moment was a new memory, and it seemed as though nothing could break us down. Eventually, though, junior year came around, and communication was dead, and although we tried so hard to fix the problems, we couldn't. We would scream at each other until our faces turned purple. We would cry until our voices were nothing but whispers. And we would fight until all we could see was red. As the fights got more frequent and the pain got stronger, I was stuck wondering what I should do. I decided it was best to leave. We had one final goodbye in his truck. This day is one I will never forget. I left school early because it was exam day and the last day of junior year. I was scared and felt as though I would shatter all over the pavement of the sidewalk leading away from the school. But I kept my composure and continued on across the street and to the parking garage. Everything looked mundane, so plain and original. Even the candy store, full of colors and fun, I remember as black and white. As I walked up the inclined concrete floors of the garage, I searched for his Chevy. The only reason I spotted him in the corner of the garage was due to the excessively loud music playing and seeing his cowboy boots tapping to the beat of it on the dash. I wasn't ready. I was scared, but I grasped the handle of the truck door anyways. The handle felt hot in my hand as my nerves almost won me over. I was debating on whether or not I should run away from the past that was waiting for me beyond that door, but I opened it. I opened that door to everything I had ever given him in those 4 years of being together. The drawings I drew him every month for our anniversary. Those mini walkie-talkies we bought in our earlier days of dating. The stuffed bear I won him in the claw machine at the mall. He sat there reclined in his real tree camouflage seat. His hat was hiding his face, but I could tell that he was glowering at me. He sat there in sweats and a white dirty tank top. His 5 o'clock shadow was the darkest I'd ever seen him. When he lifted his hat off over his head, all I could see were his eyes glazed over with tears and pain. I couldn't stand the sight of him so broken. I wanted to run. Felt as though I needed to. "You can do this," I said over and over in my mind as I hopped up onto the seat. It felt cold to me, as did the whole truck. I felt as though there was something missing. The warmth of the love we once had. We sat there silent for a few minutes as Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey droned through the speakers. As we sat there, I noticed the trash scattered all over the floor. The discarded cigarette boxes, the letters I had written him crumpled up and thrown throughout the cab. His clothes lying in a pile on the floor of the back seat. He didn't care about appearances, his truck, his health. He didn't care about anything at this point from what I could see. I felt my tears begin to well up in my eyes. I closed myself up like a Chinese fan and looked intently out the window at the empty parking garage that seemed to continue on for eternity. The cars still as stone, as though they haven't been touched for centuries. He turned himself around as well, and soon we were back to back, millions of miles away from each other in spirit, but almost touching in reality. How did this all fall apart? How did the world give me something as beautiful as love and then rip it away with resentment and anger? He turned to me as I turned to him, and his beautiful emerald eyes met mine. He asked me what we should discuss. "Anything you would like to." I said this while trying my absolute best not to let him hear the breaking in my voice, though it was difficult not to, and right after I said that, I cried. I cried harder that day than I ever have in my life. To realize that someone you love isn't someone you can be with is the worst realization in the world. You cannot prepare yourself for that. A relationship just slowly deteriorates until there's nothing left to save. He held me close to his chest for the 2 hours we had together. His hands felt like salvation from the darkest of rooms. His lips pressed against my head felt heavenly, and when he lifted my head and looked into my eyes, I felt as though I was looking at him 4 years ago, and I saw him as he was in 7th grade when we first fell in love, young and innocent. He whispered about how he could beg for me back, but he wouldn't. He only wanted one final kiss. I struggled to be next to him, never mind kissing him. I had forgotten what it felt like to kiss him. I was so afraid I would fall back in love if I did. But I did. I remember that moment so well. It was as though everything around us just disappeared and the only people that existed were us. The time didn't matter, my reward didn't matter, the world didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the moment with him. After the kiss, I turned my body and began to open the door. My longing for one last embrace stopped me. I asked him for one final hug, and when he denied me, with tear droplets sliding down my red, swollen face, I lowered myself out of the truck. I looked into his eyes and said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, if you ever need help, I will be there." And I walked away. I walked away from the only love I had ever known for over 4 years, and for some reason, with that closure, I felt okay. That very important day showed me that sometimes, no matter how much you may love someone, you need to walk away. It may have been true love, and you may love that person for your whole entire life, but sometimes it is enough to keep that person in your life. Love isn't like in the fairy tale movies. Sometimes you have to leave behind someone you love the most, so you can both someday find a happily ever after. This whole experience, from the time we met to the heartbreaking goodbye, was the biggest experience and life lesson of my life. Not only did seeing the light of the whole tragedy help me to move on, but it helps me make decisions about love and romance to this day. And that was my personal narrative. So, yeah, thanks for listening.